start off talking about value and the way that you value yourself because we are going into a week on the 3rd where Uranus stations to go direct at 27 degrees of Taurus. And Taurus is the sign in the zodiac. It's the energy that teaches us about our own value, also about what we value and what is valuable. So it is the sign of abundance. On the other side of feeling valuable, feeling abundant, feeling self-confident, and valuing the self, we have Scorpio, which is tied into lack. I don't have enough. I don't have what I need. I'm dependent on somebody else to give it to me. I don't have what I need because somebody else has done something bad to me. It's their fault. I have to manipulate to get what I need, right? It starts to get messy over there in Scorpio. Scorpio has some good aspects too. With Scorpio, we learn how to take our power back, where we realize how powerful we are. So the Taurus Scorpio axis is an axis of wealth and money, but it's also an axis of power. So as Uranus has been traveling through Taurus since 2018, we've all been grappling in some respect with our sense of personal power, especially as it relates to the way that we value ourselves. Because Venus rules Taurus, and we look at Venus as being all the things that we want. How do I get what I want? Well, Venus tells us a story that we get what we want by being certain things: beautiful, young, wealthy, connected, popular, fun, desirable, sexy, successful. So, looking back at yourself from 2018 until now, those parts of you that were chronically looking outside of yourself and saying, I am valuable if I meet this criteria. I talked a few weeks ago about vanity being one of the 7 deadly sins and how prevalent vanity is right now. All of these women just gazing at themselves in phones and in screens and petting their hair and pursing their lips and showing their belly and showing their boobs, like all of this vanity. If I'm beautiful enough, then I have value. And then we're also looking at greed as being one of the 7 deadly sins. Greed is, I need more. I need more money. I need more success. I need more validation. I need more reflection that I'm good, that people like me. Popularity, I need to be more popular. I need more followers. I mean, you've heard me describe all of these Venusian things as being empty. They don't really mean anything. As Uranus has been going through Taurus, Uranus is the teacher that shakes things up and that shows us how the tradition or the way that we've been doing things is actually really boring or really stagnant. And you've heard me say that you get to a certain point where you're beautiful, great. Your body's perfect, great. Then what? Oh, you have plenty of money in the bank. You can afford to buy whatever you want. Great. Then what? You have 1 million followers. Okay, great. Like none of it really means that much. None of it really feels rich and bountiful and nourishing, which is really what we're trying to get to with Venus, especially Venus in Taurus. So the parts of you that felt like I will be valuable when, or I will only be valuable if somebody can give something to me, if somebody gives me money, if somebody thinks I'm beautiful, if a lot of people want to watch my stuff, if people look at me and they say, oh, wow, they're really successful. We all have that. We all have those parts of us. But presumably, as Uranus has been going through Taurus, we've been recalibrating and shifting and looking more along the lines of like, what am I doing that is creating value? What seeds am I planting? How am I showing up consistently? What am I nurturing and nourishing to benefit the world? And these are bigger questions. Now, all the way through since 2018, we've been watching Uranus and Taurus, and we've also been watching how out there are things that are coming into our awareness about how they are growing our food, what they are spraying in our food and water and air. We've been looking at power structures and how there are people in power or groups in power that are stealing money, that are stockpiling the goods without sharing them we look at all of the power hungry energy that's out there. All of this, Uranus is an eye-opening teacher. Uranus says, I'm going to change this. Like, you've had your head in the sand, I'm going to yank your head up. You've had your blinders on, I'm going to take your blinders off. So this has been a really potent transit for all of us. And we're going to now travel through the last several degrees from 27 to 29, which are the master degrees, the hard degrees. We've already been through this. Uranus has been into Gemini and is now back at 27. So we've already been through it, but this is really the final hurrah around you and your value. What about you is actually valuable? Not what about you do other people see and think that you're valuable? No, it's deeper than that. Okay, so this week, you're going to see some themes start to show up. Now, we've already been through a lot of difficult Plutonian themes. Pluto rules Scorpio. So we've already had to face some of the places where we have felt disempowered, places where we're like giving our power to somebody else. Like, oh, please, I'll only be okay if you give me love and money and attention and affection. And I'll only be okay if that was your fault, right? So with Pluto Scorpio, we have to be really careful because we don't want to outsource our stuff. We want to be able to really stay strong and see where our dysfunction is, see where we are not valuing ourselves, and step into a place of power. It says, hey, I'm willing to accept responsibility for that mistake. I'm not going to blame you. I'm going to accept responsibility for the mistake. And in doing that, I'm taking my power back because I want to have a different relationship with my own value. And that's what Uranus has been teaching us. So I'm Natha Perkins of Electra Astrology. This is the Path Ahead Astrology Forecast. We're talking about the week of February 1st through the 8th. And yes, I'm starting a day early because I wanted to talk about the full moon. So I have some great talks on the Taurus Scorpio axis, which you might enjoy under the playlist Astrology for Awakening on YouTube, also on Star Narratives, but not quite as organized. If you are on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe. And if you're on Star Narratives podcasts, go ahead and follow the show. That way you guys just guarantee that you'll see more of these come up in your feed. And if you want to work with me privately, you can find me at electraastrology.com. I'm booking live readings in middle to late February, but you can always get a recorded reading in a more timely manner if you want. So let's continue this conversation. On February 1st, we are going to have a full moon in Leo. So Leo is the energy of the self, where it's where we see ourselves clearly, not the performative parts, not the parts that are like, oh, if I'm pretty enough, then people will like me, or if I'm rich enough, people will respect me. But the true heart of who we are, like, I am somebody that is kind and loving and shy. Leo's the part of you that you show your very best friends, the part that you maybe hold back with people that are acquaintances, which is Aquarius. Sun is in Aquarius. That's the audience. And the moon is in Leo. That's the actor. So there are some questions this week that we start off with around who am I? And we've gotten some really good information over the past few weeks because we've had to do a bunch of personal work. We're still in that shed where we are getting rid of the toxic autopilot things that are still hanging around. Some examples of that. I have a friend whose boss is always asking her for favors. And her go-to response is to be really, really nice and drop hints and not really come straight out and say no because she doesn't want to upset her boss and she's hoping her boss will read between the lines. No, that's not going to work. She doesn't want to carry that into the new energy. So she is learning how to say a very strong and clear, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't work, and move on. Another friend who is always worried about getting in trouble. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't want to make the wrong decision. And they are working on being resolute and sure enough of who they are that even if they do make a mistake, they are accountable for it, they will learn from it, and they can move on without berating themselves for the next 6 months. So it's these kinds of things that we are learning to release and get rid of. So now this full moon comes in and says, great, well, now that you are releasing some things, who are you? Now that you have decided now that you're a little bit more clear about who you are, how do you want to deal with all these people? And so that is the energy of this moon. Now, this moon is in a positive connection with the asteroid Ceres, which is about your body. So again, we're always tuning into the body and saying, well, what does my body have to say about this? I shared in last week or the week before that my body is very clear about what works for me and what doesn't. If I am eating a meal and I'm with somebody that's stressing me out, or I'm having a difficult conversation, instant stomach ache. And that is because my body is bracing and saying, I have to be on guard against this person. I have to be on guard against this topic. I have to be on guard against this conversation. Do I want to continue to feel like I have to guard myself? No. What's that going to take? Well, it's going to take me understanding my own worth and value. It's going to take me understanding, like, this is who I am. I'm not that weak 8-year-old anymore. And we always go back into those childhood dynamics. Right? We always go back into, like, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm going to get sent to bed without dinner. Right. And that is not the truth anymore. We are stepping into a full version of our power, especially we've just watched Neptune change signs into Aries, and Saturn's going to enter Aries next week. And Aries is all about power. So all of that wobbliness, that waviness that we've all been dealing with, like, I don't know what to do. What should I do? I'm so scared. I'm so filled with fear. I'm at the mercy of the universe. And oh my God, what a scary time to be alive. Like, all of that, I'm hoping for your sake, is starting to calm down as you're really getting more clear about your own power and your own values and the things that you can hold to be true. And a lot of that has to do with reality checking. So this full moon is, so this full moon will bring us into some reality checking. Not everybody is out to get you. Not everybody is going to see you clearly. You can see yourself clearly. You can be discerning about who you allow around you, but the world is not a dangerous place where you have no power. And that is one of the big lessons we've been working on as Uranus has been going through Taurus and all these personal planets crossing through Pluto in Aquarius. And the energy of 2026, we're really starting to feel it coming in now. So, big piece around taking your power back. On the 5th, we have Mercury making a square to Uranus. And on the 8th, we have Venus making a square to Uranus. Okay, so again, we're going to watch all of the personal planets come and square Uranus. We actually have a new moon in Aquarius that's going to square Uranus in a few weeks. So know that what's happening is that we are being pushed to understand our relationship to ourselves, to our own worth and value, to our own safety and security. We have been learning how to take back the power. And you guys know, you hear me complain about the media all the time. The media does not want you to feel empowered. They want you to feel scared. They want you to think that everything's going to hell in a handbasket. But the truth is that we are all very powerful beings. We can work with energy. We can sit in prayer. We can meditate for peace. We can do all of these things that support our values, which is the Taurus energy, which is the Uranus energy. What is the best for the collective? The powers that be are not looking at what is the best for the collective. When we get swept up in the volatility, in the vitriol, in the condemnation, in the outrage, in the retaliation, okay, those are all some big words. And guess what? A lot of people are just swimming in the stew of those energies. That's disempowering, totally disempowering. It feels powerful because you have your anger and you have your fire, but anger is a cover emotion for, hate to say it, but powerlessness. So this week, I want you to really look at this question of power, personal power. And we do find personal power in the archetype of Aries, and we also find it in the archetype of Taurus. And with both of these, we find that although we are in relationship with other people, and we do want the approval of other people, and we do want the help and assistance of other people, we want the reflection of other people, that all of that is secondary to our own sense of inherent power. And dare I say, right power. True willpower is a very different energy than squabbling for what you want. True self-love and self-respect is very different than vanity and saying, but I'm so pretty. I love myself so much. So we're dialing down in and we're really getting some clarity here that with both Aries, which Neptune is there now, Saturn is going to get there next week, and Taurus, Uranus is now going direct in Taurus. Chiron is coming into Taurus in a few months. So with both of these energies, we're getting some clarity about our actual power and how present it can be if we can get over all of the stuff that blocks us, the vanity, the greed, the vitriol, the revenge. Okay, like none of that stuff is real. Those are the empty things. The real stuff is, can I be right here with myself? Can I truly see my own power clearly? Do I know what I feel passionate about? Not angry about, passionate and pure about. Do I know how to make abundance and find safety and security? Not because I'm asking other people to give it to me, not because I need some governing body to give it to me, but because I know how to create it on my own, regardless of what's going on around me. Those are your questions for the week. Those are big questions. And we're going to find a lot of those answers by tuning into that Leo energy of, hey, what's going on in my heart? What does my heart have to say about this? Do I trust myself? Can I trust myself? Do I know that I can count on myself? Do I know that I can count on myself to follow that which makes me feel alive and vibrant? Do I have the courage to do the things that I know I want to do, not because I'm being pushed or peer pressured by people outside of me? So, deep themes for the week. Now, some of you might be listening to me talk and think, hey, that's nice. That's good. Love yourself, know your own power. That's great. But how does this change the world? And that's a good question. You know, we're not going to change the world when we are creating the same energy that is problematic already. And if you think about power hungry people or people that are victimized, I talked about the victim perpetrator savior dynamics in one of my talks a few weeks ago. No, when you are in one of those three dynamics, you are guaranteed to be dysfunctional because you're outsourcing your power. Once again, like if I'm a victim, and which is a Scorpio thing, if I'm a victim, then people hurt me, people come after me. I don't have any power of my own. If I'm a perpetrator, then I hurt people and I'm out for my own benefit. I want something. If I am a savior, then I am taking the role of God, saying, I know what's best. I know what's best. You don't know what's best. I do. And we don't want to get into the weeds in any of those three areas. That is the dysfunctional side of Scorpio. We want to be on the functional side of Taurus, saying, look, I have things to offer. I have seeds to bring to plant in the garden. I have the diligence to show up every single day and water those seeds and pull the weeds, make sure that everything's going. I want to see abundance. I want to see things grow that we can all use. And so working on our own sense of personal power, boundaries, that's Aries, knowing that we can create whatever we want, that's Taurus, having control of our own minds so that we're not brainwashed and we're not falling victim to every clickbait story we read, that's Gemini, being in tune with our emotions, knowing how our history can cause reactivity in our current system, that's Cancer. Knowing ourselves, tuning in with our heart, that's Leo. Knowing how to be of service without trying to micromanage and control, that's Virgo. Knowing how to have balanced relationships where there is justice and fairness within how much I give and how much I receive, that's Libra. And then, of course, not being a victim, not saying everybody else is hurting me, it's everybody else's fault, or I'm going to show up and I'm going to strong arm you into doing what I want. That's Scorpio. We also want to be able to zoom out and see different perspectives. That's Sagittarius. Just because we've thought something in the past doesn't mean that it's still true. And then we want to move into our Capricorn energy, which says, I am calm, I am cool, I am collected, I am neutral. I'm making decisions based on facts, not on emotions. And then we go into Aquarius, which is, we can make this better. We have to put our minds together. We can't be at odds with one another. We don't change the system by fighting with one another. We change the system by coming together. And then, of course, we get to Pisces, which is where we have to have the connection with our higher power. Without any of those 12 things happening, what are we doing? We're just spinning our wheels. We're being reactive. We are allowing ourselves, as if we were a school of fish, to get pushed one way and then the other, one way and then the other. So, with this energy that I'm talking about today, it is about, can you find your solidity? Can you make a difference by being strong and stable and present and self aware and not reactive, not falling into the abyss of everybody and their rage posting on social media, right? Saturn hits 29 degrees of Pisces. That is the most difficult degree of the zodiac. So your boundaries, your ability to stay true to the guidance of your higher self is going to come in really handy. We also have the asteroid Ceres making a square to Jupiter. So the full moon is in a great relationship with Ceres, meaning, oh, how do you connect in with your heart? Oh, you have to be present in your physical body. Okay, I'll do that. The sun in this full moon is also in a conjunction to Vesta. Well, how else can I check in with my heart? Oh, you have to go into the temple and pray. Oh, is the temple my body? Maybe. Is the heart my temple? Maybe. What if I'm in my body and my heart at the same time? Great, jackpot. Okay, that's going to bring you all the good information. Now, on the 5th, Ceres squares Jupiter. Okay, so that means that if your body is telling you what it needs, you better listen. Jupiter makes things big. Jupiter says, I'll bring you opportunity, but you're going to have to change your perspective if you want it. I'll give you a personal example. One of the things that I detest is getting on the phone. I hate making phone calls. I will put off a phone call for like years if I can get away with it. When I make myself get on the phone, I get an instant headache. Why? Because my body says, hey, you don't need to be on the phone. There are other ways to communicate. You are allowed to communicate in the way that works best for you. Okay, great. So Ceres in a square to Jupiter might sound something like, hey, do you trust your body? Do you trust the message that your body is giving you? Yeah. Okay. Well, is it against what your mind would rather you do? Yeah. Okay. Well, who are you going to listen to? Do you want the headache? Or do you want to figure out a different way to communicate? Oh, well, that's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it? Now, on the 7th, Mercury enters the sign of Pisces. Mercury travels really fast, so this isn't like the biggest thing when Mercury enters a new sign, but Mercury is going to have to cross the North Node. And that's another thing that's interesting. Now, all of these personal planets, because Mercury starts the mission, is followed by Venus next week. And then soon after that, the Sun enters, Mars will enter. All of those planets are going to have to cross the North Node. So there is something about the evolution of your connection to your higher power that's going to start happening. We've done so much work around this South Node Virgo, North Node Pisces. Relentless. It's over and over and over. The message, you don't have control. Nope, you don't have control. The guidance, let yourself flow. Let yourself be shown what to do over and over. So now, as all of the personal planets over the next few weeks are going to cross the North Node, well, guess what? Should be interesting. And the more clarity you have about who you are, what your own values are, what you're prioritizing, your own personal power, and your connection to your heart, the more open you're going to be to like learning the big spiritual lesson of the North Node in Pisces. And believe me, we want the spiritual lessons. We are not transitioning into a time where the government has more control, the church has more control. We are told what to do. We have no autonomy. That's not where we're headed. We're headed into, I want freedom. We all want freedom. We all want to live a life on this planet that feels as good as possible. But in order to do that, we have to have the clarity of like, what's the mission? What are we doing here? Where are we going? What's important to us? And what are my tools and skills and gifts that I have to make this thing happen? All right, so I'm going to leave you there. Talk to you next week. Have a good one.